In his thoughts, Kim Sung-in sees everyone placing their hope in him as a hero. We see him complaining to his mother about how tough it is to be a hero, and he doesn't want to be one. Her mother pushes him away, telling him to die like a hero. Just then, he wakes up in a disastrous area filled with monsters. We see him slicing them up, like vegetables, and defeating them. That is, until he faces a ginormous monster named Fafnir. Kim Sung-in's strength was acknowledged by him, yet he was completely overpowered. In his last moments, he thinks that he isn't worthy of the title hero. Next, we see him regaining consciousness and seeing some teenagers calling him by the name Kim Soo-hyun. One of them tries to punch his face, but Soo-hyun blocks it and sends him flying instead, claiming it was on instinct. He then grabs an old phone nearby, and after seeing his reflection, he realizes he's in a different body. In 2042, dungeons started to appear in the world and monsters started running wild. This was called the outbreak. While world peace was destroyed, there were some humans with the power to fight against them. These were the awakened. Kim Soo-hyun, among them, was the strongest because he was the last survivor when humanity met its end. Next, at the police station, he forgets his home address he never knew. He realizes that he is in the past, the year 2022. Soo-hyun's worried mother shows up to take him home. The officer advises him to stay home to avoid something. He is on his way when Soo-hyun and his mother encounter a werewolf in the street. He suddenly remembers the officer's warning and that the outbreak first started in 2022. When he is attacked, Soo-hyun defends himself with an umbrella, but he doesn't have the skills that he used to and desperately tries to fight back. As Kim Soo-hyun is cornered by a werewolf, we see another one attacking him. When suddenly, his mother leaps forward and saves him and passes out. He goes to check on her, but seeing her in this condition, he feels extremely angry and one death glare is all it took for the werewolves to disappear. He tries to chase after, but forgot about his body's weak stamina and carries his mother home. Being the strongest awakened in his last life, he isn't used to such a weak body. He then sees the opening of the Abyss door, which leads to the Tower of Trials, a place where you can become a part of the awakened. He takes this opportunity to start over again and enters. He has to clear the first stage on the first floor in order to pass, but from 1-10, he picks level 10 difficulty. Next, a werewolf is about to attack a poor boy, when we see an awakened Soo-hyun save him and kick the werewolf's butt, also taking revenge for his mother. Looks like he passed the first stage. We see in the news that dungeons are increasing in the world and people get rich goods from these dungeons. However, they don't realize that because of this, monsters are able to enter the world too. We then see some people in the abyss, wondering about the person with the highest points in the first stage. Kim Soo-hyun, of course, but he couldn't have done it without his past memories. We then see him go shopping with his points. After he gets everything he needs, Soo-hyun is checking his items when he sees a familiar face behind him. Soo-hyun sees a man from his past life, Choi Hak-jun, who is a murderer in the future. He asks Soo-hyun to join his party. We then see Soo-hyun on the second floor on the 10th stage. He is assigned to protect a special necklace and murder a clan of monsters. He kills them all flawlessly, and we find out that Choi Hak-jun was challenging level 8, and apparently it was too low for Soo-hyun to join his party, as he challenged level 10. After killing the final boss, he is resting when he finds out that the necklace can be useful to him as it heals injuries. Next, Soo-hyun heads home where his mom prepares a feast for him. After that, he opens the Abyss online website, and everyone is surprised by Kim Soo-hyun's points. We see Choi Hak-jun finding out about Kim Soo-hyun's achievements, not knowing that he already met him. We then see Kim Soo-hyun on a vacation after clearing the 9th floor. He thinks about how he'll save humanity from the disasters yet to occur. Just before entering the 10th floor, we see a beggar asking for help. Soo-hyun knows he isn't ordinary and donates 5,000 points to him in exchange for some information on the 10th floor. Before entering, he once again chooses level 10 difficulty on one of the hardest floors, with zero hesitation. Just who does this guy think he is? On the 10th floor, we see a little girl collecting berries when a monster chases after her. She's terrified until Soo-hyun saves her and kills the monster. However, when takes her home, the people treat him like a kidnapper. His mission is to save the village and survive. Soo-hyun thinks about it when suddenly the girl he saved appears and thanks him by offering berries. But it looks like he doesn't need them, as he gives her food instead. He finds out that the village has a scarcity of food, and the villagers think of the village chief as their hero. As they talk about him, the mayor himself visits Soo-hyun, who is on his guard. The villagers might fight over the food, so the mayor warns him. Kim Soo-hyun introduces himself to the mayor, asking if he could stay in the village for a while. We then see Soo-hyun offer a tremendous amount of food to the village, and in return, they provide him with accommodation. As he passes by, he sees the villagers tying up a person and sending him to a gate underground thinking they're making a sacrifice to the earth god. However, we see there's a snake demon underground, to whom the village offers a person to eat every 3 days, and in return, the snake protects the village from any other monsters. The mayor is foolish enough to send Soo-hyun there, thinking he would die. After that, the mayor goes underground for a checkup and finds something unusual. As expected, our boy, Soo-hyun, was standing in front of the dead body of the snake demon. The mayor is in shock seeing Kim Soo-hyun defeat the snake demon. He then reveals that he knows everything about the demon and that it doesn't attack its master. Soo-hyun then takes the head of the snake and exposes the truth to the villagers, and with no idea of what they'll do now, the villagers seek help from Soo-hyun, who offers a solution. He gives them the snake's eggs and tells them to raise the babies and instead of humans, feed them the monsters that attack the village. Soo-hyun then decides to teach them how to fight so the villagers can defeat the monsters on their own. After that, we see the mayor of the village, near a bird-like demon with a creepy smile, and the motive to kill them all. Next, we see Kim Soo-hyun teaching the villagers and hunting monsters. But what troubles him the most is that his success rate is not increasing, which determines if he completed the mission. Suddenly, the bird-like demon appears from underground. The mayor behind it thinks that if he can control it, he will be the village hero again. However, the demon kills him instead. We then see Soo-hyun try to fight it as it heads towards the village. Since it's flying in the sky, he can't fight properly. So he uses a potion, where he can imitate one's movement. This way, he can face the demon equally. Next, we see Soo-hyun struggling to fight against the divine bird. Severely injured, he was left with no choice but to use the Charles treasure. After healing all of his physical injuries, Soo-hyun attacked the divine bird with everything he had. Both of them hit the ground and Soo-hyun passes out. Then we see Soo-hyun wakes up to find the villagers worried for him. The little girl is filled with joy and explains to Soo-hyun that he defeated the monster bird. Because of it, they now have plenty of food to feed the baby snakes as well. The villagers claim Soo-hyun is their savior, and he is delighted by the completion of his mission. Soo-hyun decides to leave without any notice, however, the little girl sees him. She tells Soo-hyun her name, Melly, and hands him a bag of fruits as thanks. Soo-hyun leaves. Meanwhile, Hak-jun is seen talking to his boss as he instructs him to bring Soo-hyun to their guild, and he might just let Hak-jun free. Up next, we see Hak-jun arriving at the Awakened Certification Authority. Shortly after, Soo-hyun arrived there as well. It is explained that the Awakened must take an examination to get a rank assigned by the government. The higher the rank is, the higher the dungeon rewards will be. Next, we see Hak-jun humble a fellow Awakened who is picking on the examiner for assigning him a lower rank. Seeing this, Soo-hyun meets Hak-jun again. Just before exchanging names, Hak-jun's name is called for examination. It is then revealed he is a part of the Aries Guild. Hak-jun is assigned a rank B, which surprises everyone. Up next, Soo-hyun is called out. Hak-jun is shocked to see that he is the Soo-hyun his boss told him to recruit. It is then shown that Soo-hyun is assigned a C rank. He claims he almost lost control of his mana and would have been in trouble. Hak-jun is confused as to how Soo-hyun has a lower rank. After the examination, they meet outside but are interrupted by someone. It was the guy Hak-jun stopped and humiliated. Just then, the guy falls down. Behind him stands Hak-jun's guildmaster Young Dong-young. He asks for Soo-hyun's name. While Hak-jun signaled him not to say anything, Soo-hyun told Dong-young his name. Dong-young asked Soo-hyun for his certification card. After seeing his C rank, he said he was not the one he was looking for since his name is common. Soo-hyun claimed that even if he was the one, he wouldn't join his guild. It is then explained that Dong-young was a gangster before he became awakened. He then quit the gangs and started his own guild. He is involved in all sorts of crimes, and Soo-hyun concluded this may be why Hak-jun will destroy the guild in the future. Soo-hyun then realized he needed to participate in dungeon raids. Seeing how his rank was low, he thought of baiting someone. Next, we see an assistant leader Baro, along with a B rank awakened, Lee Jo-hoo searching for members to raid an orange dungeon. They needed one more member, and just then, Soo-hyun applied for it. Next, Soo-hyun joins the raiding party and is introduced to everyone. The other awakened first thought he was the first-ranking Soo-hyun. However, Jo-hoo claimed his rank is lower, and he is someone else. There is also a mysterious person on their team. Soo-hyun then explains he became a part of this raid for a reason. This is because everyone will die, except for one person. As they entered the dungeon, they are suddenly attacked by a big cyclops, which was not expected to be there. The whole team is now in a state of panic. Soo-hyun realized that the dungeon has leveled up to a yellow dungeon. After explaining this phenomenon, the mysterious person on the team mentioned that the exit has also changed now, and the only choice is to fight. Jo-hoo blocked the attack of the Cyclops, but was sent flying away by a kick. Soo-hyun then tries to take on the Cyclops. More monsters appeared, but were weaker than the Cyclopes. Soo-hyun remembered that the weakness of the Cyclops is in its hidden eye. He strikes his hand thinking he is defeated. But just then, the Cyclopes grabs him. Soo-hyun is shocked to see that the hidden eye was actually in its other hand. The Cyclops squashed him in his hands. Just then, Soo-hyun jumps out of his hands unharmed. He had successfully used the upgraded transformation skill. With it, he defeated all the monsters, including the Cyclops. Jo-hoo is amazed by his strength. Soo-hyun is healed by the healer on their team, and Jo-hoo asks to have a word with Soo-hyun alone. Next, we see the team has reached a gate. Inside, there appears to be an exit from the dungeon. However, just then, the dungeon system is activated and another trial is in front of them. Soo-hyun explains that in higher-level dungeons, one cannot leave just after defeating monsters. They are given a choice to either fight monsters for 30 minutes or run from them for 30 minutes. Jo-hoo asks Soo-hyun's opinion on this, and he decides to fight the monsters in a formation. The fight now begins, and the team seems to be holding against the monsters really well. Just then, they see the mysterious person from their team impaled with spikes at the door. While everyone believed that this exit had traps and they would have to do a second trial, Soo-hyun claimed that the traps are for those who tried to escape. He convinced everyone to leave and stayed behind. However, he also forcibly kept the healer behind as well. Jo-hoo and Soo-hyun are seen discussing this earlier. The healer, Kim-yoon, is the actual traitor. Soo-hyun explains that the mark on her shoulder is from the Dump Guild, the worst of all guilds and murderers who later help in bringing about the destruction of humanity. Soo-hyun claims to destroy the guild from its roots. Meanwhile, Yoon is confident she will escape from the dungeon using her skill sneak. However, Soo-hyun had placed blood on her, marking her for the monsters. She is then killed by the monsters because of the blood scent. Soo-hyun then takes on all of the monsters alone. Meanwhile, Jo-hoo and the other members are seen running away. In a flashback, it is shown that Soo-hyun revealed to Jo-hoo that he is the first-ranked Soo-hyun and that there is a murderer on the team. Soo-hyun also asked Jo-hoo to trust him. Remembering this, Jo-hoo changed his route and thought that he shouldn't leave Soo-hyun behind to face all of those monsters. As he returned, he saw Soo-hyun had already defeated all of the monsters. However, just then, the final boss of the dungeon appeared. Both Soo-hyun and Jo-hoo now prepared for battle. Soo-hyun explains to Jo-hoo that dungeons have dangerous bosses. One such is this skeleton-like monster. The boss then starts talking and claims he is Lich, the Dark Priest. Soo-hyun provokes him by taunting him that he is only a half-lich. The Lich then summons all the dead monsters to attack both of them. Soo-hyun makes a blue fire circle and asks Jo-hoo to stay in it. Meanwhile, he attacks the Lich. However, the Lich had a teleportation ability to avoid attacks. The Lich attacked Soo-hyun and he defended it with his sword. The Lich claims he has corrupted Soo-hyun's sword and he only has 5 minutes before he loses it. Soo-hyun attacks again. Meanwhile, Jo-hoo leaves the flame circle to help Soo-hyun as well. Seeing how Jo-hoo was using the divine flame to attack the monsters, Soo-hyun noticed an increase in his mana level. He then decided to make a new plan. He asked Jo-hoo to attack the Lich together. Jo-hoo leaped forward to attack the Lich, and Soo-hyun attacked with the divine flame from beneath. The Lich thought the attack won't reach him, however. Jo-hoo combined his attack with the flame and created a flame tornado. The Lich was now hit. Soo-hyun jumped forward to attack, but suddenly, his sword broke. However, just when the Lich thought he is safe, Jo-hoo attacked from behind and killed it in one strike. As they leave the dungeon, they see that the rescue team had been called. Jo-hoo gives Soo-hyun all of the shares of the reward in the form of ether stones. He calls him a taxi, and Soo-hyun leaves the place. He then goes to an ether auction and sells all of it for 600 million won. He then feels relieved as he doesn't have to worry about money. He reached home and his mother greets him. However, he sees a bruise on her mother's cheeks. Next, we see that Soo-hyun's mother got hurt in trying to settle down a fight at the restaurant she worked in. Just then, Soo-hyun decided to tell everything to her. His mother supported his decision and asked him to do what made him happy. He then remembers flashbacks of her own actual mother. Soo-hyun also showed her the money he made just now. She was shocked to see so much money and prepared a lavish dinner. Meanwhile, Soo-hyun realized he needed a weapon to continue his journey ahead. He goes to meet the weapon master craftsman Kim Dae-ho. In a flashback, it is revealed that the sword Soo-hyun used to wield in his last life was called Balmung, and it was crafted by Dae-ho. We also see that Dae-ho never took any compensation from Soo-hyun and was always helpful. However, Soo-hyun was unable to protect him back then. Now he promised he will protect him at all costs. Soo-hyun shows Dae-ho the material he has for his sword. It is the purest ether. Dae-ho is shocked to see it and agrees to make his sword. However, it will take him 10 months to do so. In the meantime, we see that Soo-hyun enters the tower in the abyss and clears 16 floors. 6 months have passed, and Jo-hoo is seen hospitalized after an attempt to clear a floor. He's then called by Soo-hyun, who asks him for a favor. Next, we see that Soo-hyun asks Jo-hoo for 3 favors. The first is to help him get accommodation near the Seoul suburbs. The second is to keep tracking the Dump Guild, since after the raid, they will be suspicious of what happened with their member. And the last favor is to assist him to fight against the outbreak bound to happen on the 24th of December. Jo-hoo agrees to all of this. Soo-hyun decides to get stronger to fight against the outbreak. He needs to clear 20 floors. Next up, he reaches the 19th floor and is greeted by hungry rats. His mission is to survive and escape. He then fights the rats, but they are many in number. He breaks the ground below to escape and is now underground. He then sees a giant snake monster in front of him. Soo-hyun attacks the monster but soon realizes all of his attacks have no effect. After a lot of different attacks and strategies, nothing worked. Soo-hyun then cleverly traps it in tree vines. He then uses his remaining mana to summon the Divine Flame Phoenix. He obtained this skill on the 18th floor when his Divine Flame leveled up. He explains it consumes a lot of mana, however, it is worth it as it delivers 10 times the destructive power. Soo-hyun attacked the monster and defeated it. He now looks forward to clearing the 20th floor. Before that, he remembers his weapon. Next, we see Soo-hyun arriving to meet Jo-hoo in a fancy car. Jo-hoo had gifted him this car. They discuss the updates on the Dump Guild, however, they have no trace and are in hiding. Jo-hoo claims there was an incident in which an awakened died in the middle of the street from poison. Soo-hyun asks him to look into it. Meanwhile, Soo-hyun goes to blacksmith Daeho and receives his sword. He is amazed by the sharpness and quality of the sword and names it Graham. Soo-hyun takes his leave. Meanwhile, in a castle far away, a commander called Maxman is seen troubles by something. He is seen talking to someone called Attaché. Next, we see that Attaché claims that he is here to monitor the soldiers and whether they are guarding the castle properly or not. It is then explained that due to the conflicts and war, the king had appointed the Attaché as chief commander in war. Commander Maxman also claims that the Attaché doesn't value the life of the soldiers. Just then, the castle shakes and a wall is destroyed. It is no other than Soo-hyun. It is then shown that previously, Soo-hyun wanted to enter the 20th floor. The gatekeeper advised him not to kill anyone if possible, and his objective was to bring down the castle. He had 1 month's time to do so. After a lot of planning, Soo-hyun decided to take this head-on. He destroyed the wall. Amazed by the sword's adaptability, Soo-hyun leaps forward to attack the soldiers. He strikes them, however, with accurate control. He made sure not to cut and kill anyone. He reached further into the boundaries of the castle and found the commander Maxman. The guards were trying to protect him, which meant he had an influence on them. Soo-hyun thought if he attacked him, he can get his answers and then also get inside the castle. He used the transformation and also a skill called Gigantomachia and smashed a hole in the ground, collapsing a tower. In the rubble, Soo-hyun and the captain disappeared. Next, we see that Soo-hyun and Commander Maxman are transported inside the castle. It appears that Soo-hyun used a skill called shadow assimilation. It can transport people from one shadow to another. Just then, Soo-hyun explains the castle is in trouble and asks if there have been any anomalies within the castle. Maxman decides to trust him and leads the way to a place. They reach an old abandoned prison that not many people know about. Suddenly, the attaché appears behind them both. Soo-hyun had doubts about him and he suddenly attacked him. It seemed he had chopped off his head and Maxman was mad. However, we see that attaché was actually a lich. This time a complete one, and a more dangerous one. Soo-hyun blocked the attack of the lich with his sword. Turns out his sword is able to withstand the attacks. However, Soo-hyun's attacks have no effect on the lich. Even the divine flame was of no use. The lich had a strong dark aura. Just then, Soo-hyun noticed that the lich was not attacking with full power. Suddenly, an attack from behind came toward the commander. Soo-hyun blocked it. We then see 2 more liches appear. The lich claimed this was his home after all. Next, we see Soo-hyun explaining that liches have a king lich that they want to summon using human sacrifices. The lich then explains how they killed the king of this castle and used his dead body to control everything. This enraged Commander Maxman. The lich used a high-level skill called Darkness Guide. Soo-hyun realized that these were apostle liches and they are quite strong. There was no way out of this, but just then, Maxman broke out of it. It is revealed he is a holy knight. He attacks them head-on, however. The liches dodge the attack and counter. Soo-hyun used the blue phoenix and tries to gain the upper hand. He calms down the commander and asks him to let him lead the fight. As the real fight begins, Soo-hyun tells the commander to protect the soldiers outside. Meanwhile, Soo-hyun takes on all 3 of them. He takes out one of the leeches with the help of the divine phoenix. He also destroys the castle walls and exposes them out in the open. Just then, he realizes his mana level has decreased because of using the Phoenix. However, he one-ups the liches by using transformation to gain the Holy Blade, similar to Maxman's. The lich outside the castle summons the dead people as monsters. Maxman prepares to fight him, and his soldiers provide him support. Meanwhile, Soo-hyun defeats the lich battling him inside. The lich did not disappear immediately as the crystal was cut. This showed how strong the lich was. He claimed that the Lich King will be revived at all costs. Just then, Soo-hyun claimed that he will be the one who kills the Lich King. In his past life, in the outbreak, he was the one who brought down the Lich King. Meanwhile, the lich outside got to know his boss Lich was killed. Furious, he tried casting a spell, but just then, Soo-hyun knocks him out. Just when the soldiers and Soo-hyun thought everything was over, the angry lich took out a staff from his mouth and summoned a barrier. Soo-hyun attacked him, however. His attacks had no effect on the lich's defense. Just then, Maxman cast a sanctuary barrier in order to protect his soldiers, even at the cost of his own life force. Soo-hyun then defeated the lich with the divine flame sword. After everything was over, both Maxman and Soo-hyun rest for a while. In the meantime, at the Awakened Management Agency, Jo-hoo shocks the chairman by telling him there will be an outbreak in 3 months' time. The chairman of the agency has a hard time believing the news and yells at Jo-hoo. Though the people of Anyang are endangered, the chairman prioritizes his position more. So when questioned about his source of information, Jo-hoo reveals it's from a reliable source, Kim Soo-hyun. The chairman tends to bear the responsibility for any casualties and chooses to ignore the outbreak. Kim Soo-hyun, after he passed the 20th floor, talks to Maxman one last time before leaving. Later, we see Jo-hoo in a gym, and he receives a call from Soo-hyun. He learns that he is in a hospital. We then see Kim Soo-hyun outside a hospital, when suddenly, Jo-hoo calls out to him in a panicking voice. Though his injuries are not severe, Jo-hoo is still worried about him. Jo-hoo explained the situation to the director. Soo-hyun had already anticipated this. He told Jo-hoo to move to Plan B. 1 month later, 1 week before the outbreak, an online post about the Dump Guild attacking the city has gone viral. Meanwhile, Soo-hyun is seen consuming the highest-tier mana catalyst for a month. He has a viscous aura around him. The day of the outbreak is tomorrow. Soo-hyun seems fully prepared. Meanwhile, we see Hak-jun along with his guildmaster Dong-young discussing these matters. Dong-young mentions the source of the news of the Dump Guild was Kim Soo-hyun. Hak-jun doubts why his master would be interested in anything other than his own profits. In the city, a group of muggers are approached by an unknown person. Suddenly, there are explosions caused by that person. The chairman calls every Awakened to capture him. It is no other than Soo-hyun. It appears Soo-hyun has the ability to set things on fire without any damage. He reveals this chaos is to bring out the Awakened. The assistant director of the chairman along with many Awakened appear in front of Soo-hyun. They all attack him together, but there is no use. Soo-hyun establishes that he is above everyone in strength. The assistant, Doi, plans to call all the Awakened available to capture Soo-hyun. The low-ranked Awakened attacks Soo-hyun, but he dodges easily. Kim Doi asks everyone to wait for reinforcements. Soo-hyun explains his reasons for the act of terrorism. First, he wanted to evaluate the strengths of all the Awakened, and secondly, he wanted the director to send all the Awakened to the city to fight against the outbreak. Just then, someone arrives. The elite force of the Awakened known as ACT have arrived. Their leader is an S-ranked Awakened, Young-yu. It is also revealed that he was Soo-hyun's master in his past life. The group now attacks Soo-hyun. The ACT group surrounds Soo-hyun in a formation. They move around him at high speed and attack in coordination. However, Soo-hyun was able to counter it easily. He explains he was a part of the group in his past life and knows all of the insights. Just then, the S-rank Young-yu prepared for battle with Soo-hyun. However, Soo-hyun surrendered. This surprised everyone. Soo-hyun claimed it is about time for it to start. And just then, the ground started to shake and a dungeon outbreak appeared. It was a green dungeon outbreak that shocked every Awakened present. Soo-hyun tried to gather everyone's focus to defend the city. Strong red and orange dungeon-level monsters started to appear from the dungeon. Young-yu defended against the monsters, and every Awakened started to kill these monsters. Just then, Soo-hyun waited for the boss to emerge, and then Igolas, the half-dark dragon, appeared. Soo-hyun prepared to fight the dragon. Kim Doi was about to be attacked from behind, but was saved by Young-yu. He told Doi to assist the Awakened. Meanwhile, his team took care of the monsters. And also, Young-yu entrusted the duty to kill the half-dark dragon. As Soo-hyun attacked, it had no effect on the dragon. He claimed even if it was his second time battling it, the dragon was a tough opponent. Using the Divine Flame Phoenix and his leap skill, he reached the high ground and took out a special item. The Dragon Slayer Spear Near. It was a one-time use legendary item. Soo-hyun threw the spear toward the dragon with all his strength. The dragon took a critical hit and fell to the ground. It appears the attack worked. Soo-hyun now waited for him to appear. A dark figure from the dragon appeared, one half of the dragon's soul. It charged towards Soo-hyun and critically damaged him. Just when everyone thought Soo-hyun was dead, he suddenly gained a power-up. Turns out, the damage to a critical level gave him a power boost.
What happens next? Subscribe for more quality content.